Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jatapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitang Tang Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhan Vitangscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Guru Gaura Gandharva Govindam Gringanai Saha Bande Prasadato Yesham Savaramba Sabankara Gauravag Vigraham Bande Gaurangam Gauravaibavam Gaura Sankirtano Matam Gaura Karunya Sundaram Guru Rupa Harim Gauram Radha Ruchi Ruchavratam Nityam Nomi Navadipe Nama Kirtana Nartanai Nindantam Pulakot Karena Bikasam Nipa Prasunachstavim Prodrikritva Bujadvayam Hari Hari Ituchai Vidantam Muhu Nityantam Drutamasru Nirjara Chai Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadai Parivratam Sri Gaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemava Divyachta Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. So today is the appearance day of Mahavishnu Avatar, Adwaita Acharya, and the beginning of Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam. There's 17 or so slokas, the introduction, so many about Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and then Adwaita Prabhu, culminating in the Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupas Rupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. As we say, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Adwaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. So the Bhakta avatar is Adwaita Acharya, and it says Mahavishnu Jagat Karta Mayayam Ya Srijatyada Tasyavataram Eva Adwaita Acharya Mishvara. That this Adwaita Acharya we see in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu as none other than Mahavishnu, Jagat Karta, who creates the innumerable universes. So if you think about this, it's utterly amazing, the sheer magnitude of Mahavishnu. And remember, first there's Krishna, Balaram, these quadruple expansions, Sankarshan, Vasudev, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, a second quadruple. Then there's Mahavishnu, who we hear from the Brahma Sangita, as a Yashaika Nishvashita Kalamatavalambyā Jivanti Loma Vilija Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahan Iha Yasha Kalavishesho Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Saying from his, he's breathing and lying in Yoga Nidra, right, which means sort of half mystic sleep, with his eyes half closed, his outward going breath and inward going breath. Outward going breath is approximately 150 trillion years. Inward going breath, 150 trillion years. So one breath cycle, 300 trillion years. What time zone is that? And like we have hairs and pores, follicles and pores. And from his pores innumerable universes are coming out like golden eggs, and they inflate to the size of like 1 billion by 1 billion, whatever metric you want to use. Right? So we would think that Mahavishnu, as described, is unapproachable, and might even, we might think like, does he have any concern for these things? Is it like some giant machine that's just impersonally, without feeling, producing, generating, you know? But if we look beginning to end and include the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we could even suggest that it's Mahavishnu's mercy to allow this creation, to manifest the creation. Why? Because it gives those souls who are forgetful of their relationship with Krishna, taking the position of a competitor, Bhayam Ditya Biniveshitat Syad Ishad Apetasya Viparyayo Smriti, a chance where they can indulge this fantasy, and should they have the good fortune, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev, the Lord has innumerable avatars and incarnations to descend into this world and rescue the fallen souls. And Mahavishnu himself enters into each universe. We're told Garbhodakshai Vishnu, extension, Kiradakshai Vishnu. So, but you would think, because we're told he's Vishnu Tattva, in other words, of the same quality as Vishnu, and by extension Krishna. So you have these finite jiva souls wanting to compete with Krishna or to take his position as the Lord of all our survey, whereas Balaram and here Mahavishnu, their whole being is to serve Krishna. Right? Balaram is the first other than Krishna who's equal to Krishna in almost every way imaginable, and yet his desire is to serve Krishna. And we're told that's the what's compelling about Krishna conception. The attraction of Krishna is not for whom is experiencing that attraction to want to consume him, but rather to offer themselves to him in service. Srila Jiva Goswami says, Bhajaniya Sarvashad Guna Vishishta, that Krishna has such qualities that automatically one wants to respond by offering themselves in service. So, Chaitanya Charitamritam in the Nityananda chapter before says, Ekala Ishvara Krishna Ar Sabritya. There's one true Ishvara, Supreme Lord Krishna, and all the others, including Balaram and Mahavishnu, and by extension Adwaita, Nityananda Adwaita, are Sabritya. Everyone else is a servant. And they wouldn't have it any other way. It's not that the position of a devotee is somehow less than desirable. Krishna's the Supreme Lord and everyone's worshiping him and offering everything to him, and these poor other souls, they get to be his worshipers. But we see this devotional mood and spirit and heart is pervasive, right? It's, on the Shakti side, Srimati Radharani, the Braja Gopis, the Mahishigan of Dwarka, the Dwarka queens, the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha. There, we're told Lakshmi Devi, sometimes we hear Srivatsa, that she resides on the chest of the Lord. But her desire is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord. All of these super personalities, they want to serve. And they say, and true devotion will always have this das abhiman, the ego of a servitor, or dasi abhiman in the female sense. So then, as Adwaita Acharya, what we could say, again, Mahavishnu, just to stay there for a moment, remember through Mahavishnu, by extension Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kiradakshai Vishnu, all the avatars and incarnations in this world descend through them. That's the meaning of avatar. Avataram, one who descends. In Krishna Lila, when we're told how to properly conceive the seductive charm, beauty, sweetness of Krishna, that on the one hand we're told, the Braja Gopis in the poetry of Rupa Goswami, when Krishna played a trick on them and showed Narayan, their rag was crippled, crushed, their natural flow of heart, and they were somewhat disappointed to see someone. Rupa Goswami describes that if Krishna has 64 qualities, Narayan has 60. Disappointing, not up to their standard. But those four, what are those four qualities? Sarvad Bhuta Chamatkara Lila Kalola Varadi Atulya Madhura Prema Mandala Murali Kalakujita Tri Jagan Manasa Karshi. The sweet, irresistibly sweet sound of Krishna's flute, and particularly his sweet pastimes with his devotees, the Madhura Rasa pastimes, are only fully expressed in Krishna Lila. So they're disappointed. And when they meet, what to speak of that Vishnu form shown by Krishna, when they meet Dwaraka Krishna, after so many years of separation, and they assemble in Kurukshetra, observing the solar eclipse, and Dwaraka Krishna is there, absent the flute, that mysterious thing. Srimati Radharani once called a meeting of the Braja Gopis, and she said, I've discovered what our problem is. So they're all very eager it's like they're having istagosti about what the problems are there in Krishna Loka. And he said, the source of all of our trouble is the flute. So we need to capture the flute. And we can get the flute away from Krishna, then we can live a happy life. So they're disappointed with Dwaraka Krishna, absent the flute and his Gopavesh, his cowherd dress, not as sweet, as charming, and the environment. The environment of Vrindavan is inseparable. Right? This is not a question of like form versus substance, as Guru Maharaj told me. In Goloka Vrindavan, form and substance are one. They're identical. So that environment is inseparable. In different ways, they're disappointed. But then we're told Mahavishnu stole the child of the Brahmin. It seems, kidnapping. generally thought to be, it's a horrible thing to do, done by no less than Mahavishnu. Why? Upon achieving the darshan of Krishna, Arjuna, he just said, I just wanted to have darshan of your inconceivable beauty. So and this is for the case for the beauty of Krishna. Right? Then, what are we told even more? That Krishna himself is charmed by the beauty of Krishna. Sometimes we're told either seeing his reflection in a jeweled column or a picture of Vrindavan Krishna, that he's saying, oh, who is this personality who's flooding my heart with the sentiments of Srimati Radharani? So that's the ultimate case, that Krishna himself is attracted to the beauty of Krishna. So, that Krishna, when he descends in the world, he first sends his so-called Guru Varga, which means like his mother, father, aunties, uncles, like that. Same thing happens in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That first come the elders. So in this case it means Adwaita, Acharya, Haridas Thakur, and Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Mata, etc. And Adwaita Acharya, think about it, he created all these universes. And sending through him so many avatars to rescue the fallen souls. And still his heart is full of compassion. And we could think about it in this way, because we're told on the one hand, these devotees are in a more or less never-ending ecstatic state. So then what is unhappiness for them? Right? Vairagya yug bhakti rasa prayatne apayayam mamanabipsamandam kripam buddhi yat paraduka duki. Paraduka duki means seeing the suffering of others. And not just that people are suffering, right? But what their prospect is for happiness and enjoyment, and that not being realized. So we can understand this somewhat from our situation. Like, say we're in a relatively okay situation, and then you hear about intense suffering of people in the world. And even if you have a nice situation yourself, when you hear that, it brings some empathy, to the heart, feels some pain to think, why do people have to suffer unnecessarily like this? Right? And from a philosophical point of view, we can say karmically or whatever, but still, we feel something for them. But consider this, here's Adwaita Acharya, right? And he knows the potential of all these fallen souls is an ecstatic life of love with Krishna, right? Not just ordinary happiness, but like super happiness, right? Rupa Goswami describes that in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he said, by making a reference to what's called Brahmananda. So if we want to be generous and say that there are those here in this world who've achieved Brahmananda, they've merged into the, totally into spirit, right? Brahma Ananda. So they're no longer troubled by sense disturbance of this world, and they've merged into the one, the outskirts of the supreme reality, Brahman, the Brahman effulgence. And we're told that happiness is so great that the highest material pleasure, generally conceived to be sexual pleasure, it's millions of times greater than that. So they have no interest in that. Right? So using Brahmananda as a happiness marker, right? Rupa Goswami says, Brahmanando bhavedesha chet parada gunikrita naiti bhakti sukhambodhe paramanu tilamapi. If you take the happiness of Brahmananda and multiply it 1 trillion-fold, it's not equivalent to a drop of the happiness of Krishna Bhakti. Right? So even if we can't, fully grasp that, just the concept, the possibility that something like that exists should pique our imaginations. Like, what is this? What's generally considered some deep, high level of spiritual realization and understanding? Rupa Goswami is saying, yeah, take that, multiply it 1 trillion-fold, it's not equal to a drop of this. Right? And when we use words like trillion, it's, our brains cannot process that. So that's the happiness of devotion as described by Rupa Goswami. So who wants that? The queens of Dwarka, the Braja Gopis, the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha, and what to speak of them, Balaram, Nityananda, Mahavishnu, Adwaita, Acharya, Mahadev, Shiva, the Kumars, everyone wants a drop of that divine substance. And we're told it's so powerful, Sri Krishna Karshini Chasa, that one in possession of a drop of that can attract the attention of the Supreme Entity. All attractive Krishna is irresistibly drawn in attraction to devotion. Right? So, what to speak of the devotion of Adwaita? Rupa Goswami says in the Chaitanyastakam, Swarupam Bibrano Jagatatulyam Adwaita Dvaita. How dear is Adwaita to Mahaprabhu? We're told that Mahaprabhu once asked some devotees, said, what is your opinion of my Adwaita? And someone, thinking they were giving high praise, said, well, like Sukadev or Prahlad, And we're told Mahaprabhu became enraged. He said, my Adwaita, you compare to these boys? You don't understand how dear he is to me. And that Adwaita, I was telling the last time I spoke that there were so many different personalities that we can rightfully attribute to the descent of the Lord. Yeah, beginning with Guru and Vaishnava, really. But we said, Radharani herself, for converting Krishna into a devotee, descending as Mahaprabhu, Sachi Mata, accepting the pain of separation by allowing him to keep his sannyas and reside in Puri, Vishnu Priya, but who's given direct credit in the pages of Charitamritam, Adwaita Acharya. So he's seeing and not the potential of these people, but think about it this way too. At that time in Navadvip, relatively speaking, these are super qualified people. Like, they know Sanskrit, they know Shastra, they know so many things, but they've gone so far off. Like Guru Maharaj said, they were spending lavishly on the wedding of cats. Which in the modern world, people go, well, that's used as a marker to say how far off they'd gone. and they were doing that kind of thing, and you can imagine, you know, with Vedic mantras and so much so that genuine things, like taking the holy name of Krishna, they used in a more like a ritualistic sense at different times, like the appearance time of Mahaprabhu. But so Adwaita, seeing this situation, was full of compassion, and we're told he took a palmful of Ganga jal, Ganga water, with some tulsi manjaris, and recalled this famous prayer where it says, Jalasya tulasi dalamatrena, Jalasya chulakena ba, vikrinite atma sva-atmanam bhaktebhyo bhaktavatsala. So, Bhaktavatsala, he is, Krishna is irresistibly drawn to devotion, and if you offer him Tulsi, his devotee, and Jamuna, Ganga, that it's such a, in Krishna's estimation, such a valuable offering that he feels unable to, compensate. So he offers himself. That is Adwaita's strategy. Saying this way, because we could say he could just cry out, but with a palmful, and it shows the power of these things, Ganga, Jamuna, and Tulsi. And we're told at that time he's crying out to the Lord to descend. And later in different places, we will hear Mahaprabhu say, it has almost an element of humor, but because it can be taken in different ways, but he says, I was, you know, sleeping in the ocean of milk, and I heard Adwaita calling so loudly, you know, woke me up. So, when otherwise we hear like in such a heartfelt way, on behalf of all these, Adwaita is calling in a very heartfelt way, pitifully, right? That it moves the Supreme Lord, and he realizes that it's the time of descent for the Yuga avatar, but also he has some personal interest, right, described by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Chaitanyastakam, aparam kasyapi pranayi janavindasya kutuki rasodstamam hritva madhuram upabhoktam kamapiya rucham swam avavre dutim iha tadyam sat chaitanya devaskritir atitaram na kripayatu. Having surveyed the assembled gopis on the Rasa Leela, the millions, if not billions, the Radharani shining her Mahabhav Krishna Prem, awakened in Krishna the curiosity to himself experience devotion. And not only devotion, what we call Bhakta Bhav, but Radha Bhav, the devotion of the highest devotee. So in making the case for devotion, why in a sense it's superior to that of the Lord. He himself says, what she's experiencing, I cannot fully estimate it, but it appears to be 10 million times greater than what I'm experiencing. So one last endorsement on the position of the devotee comes from no less than Krishna himself, saying, what everyone will get to be a devotee except me. As Guru Maharaj said, sweetness, seeing that everyone is mad to taste sweetness, says, I want to see what it's like. And then sweetness, tasting sweetness, Atmasiddha Savalila Purna Sokya Lakshanam. He's being driven mad, tasting that sweetness, especially through the position of Srimati Radharani, her capacity, right? Mahabhav Swarupini Radha Thakurani, to extract from Krishna, right? Highest quality and quantity of sweetness, whereas the finite jiva soul, by their constitutional capacity, a drop of the infinite is infinite, but they have a finite capacity, whereas she has virtually infinite capacity. He's the predominating moiety, she's the predominated moiety. She's the better half of the sweet absolute. So the curiosity is within him, irresistibly so, to descend and execute the function of the Yuga avatar, Bahiranga Sange Kore Nama Sankirtan, in general, to distribute the holy name of Krishna, Krishna Nama Siddhu Dhamma Dana Dana Sagaram, the abode of all nectarine substance within the sound, transcendental sound vibration form of the Lord. And once that service is completed, to relish Radha Bhav, the depths, the limits, the unlimits of Radha Bhav. So Adwaita Acharya is calling for the Lord to appear, and we're told, as I said, that Guru Varga, remember Haridas Thakur, he lives nearby, and he comes to Shantipur, and once he and Adwaita connect, they're just madly taking Krishna Nam before the appearance of Mahaprabhu. And we know they go preaching together at different times in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And to, again, demonstrate in principle how this mercy will be distributed, we told the time for the Shrad ceremony, and Adwaita Acharya and his parental line, father. Once you complete this ceremony, you should take the first prasad, and that should be given to like whoever is the most exalted Brahmin in the assembly. That's generally to them, and then Adwaita Acharya selects Haridas Thakur, who's not a Brahmin, is, I guess, for lack of a better term, an outcast. Right? And Haridas Thakur is saying, is this even right? You know, he's always so humble. He thinks maybe this is inappropriate, and Adwaita Acharya says, no, I'm doing this with full awareness what I'm doing. You're the superior person in this assembly. Right? And Guru Maharaj liked to quote this one Bengali song that said that 3 puggles, that means crazy people, 3 puggles have ruined Navadvip, have made the whole place of Navadvip go mad. Because Navadvip is known for scholarship, academics, Sanskrit, and, Nyaya, logic, so many things. And then 3 crazy men came in and just ruined the whole place. And who are they? They're Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma, Brahma Haridas. Vishnu, in this context, Nimai Pandit. And Shiva, because Adwaita is alternately described as Sadashiva. So Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, they've descended in Navadvip. They've gone mad, taking the holy name of Krishna and driving everybody else crazy. And Guru Maharaj points out at that moment that there are those who would pray for such kind of madness. You know, like if someone says, have you lost your mind? You say, I'm trying. Right? It is our mind that is the seat of all karma and mundane experience. So, as in the Gita, Yani Sha Sarvabhutanam Tasam Jagrati Samyami, that what is night for one is the time of awakening for another, and the inverse. So, to pursue Krishna consciousness in this world is like a type of madness. Right? Just like we're those people who, by some good fortune, we've got like the treasure map that takes you to where the hidden treasure is. We can't tell anybody about it. If you do, they will think you're crazy. But on the basis of what we're experiencing personally, and by the grace of our Guru Varga, we're very happily engaged in this search for this ultimate treasure. But it's thought to be madness. Guru Maharaj would say, what Einstein conceives is thought to be madness by other people. Like, what is all this crazy writing on the board? And, you know. But the power of one of those thoughts can destroy the world. Right? So who's to be the judge of what is madness and what is not? As Prabhupada once wrote a little pamphlet, one of his first disciple to shave his head was arrested and put in the insane asylum. You know, they thought this guy's crazy and he's talking about Krishna. And so Prabhupada wrote a little pamphlet called, Who is Crazy? And, you know, how do you say, spoiler alert, it's not those who are Krishna conscious. So, Adwaita, Acharya, and Haridas Thakur, they're madly taking the name of Krishna, Gezan Nam Sankirtan, awaiting the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he appears at the time of this lunar eclipse, and not eclipse, what is it? Purnima, excuse me. And at that time, everyone will be, in a ritualistic sense, bathing in the Ganga and, you know, chanting Hari and different names of the Lord. So they take advantage of that time to just have wild, mad Nam Sankirtan, because they can feel it, that he's descended. They know that. So they're ecstatic. And within a few days, Adwaita Acharya and his wife Sita Thakurani, they go to visit Sachi Mata after so many days, maybe 6 days, can receive guests. And Sita Thakurani, she brings so many gifts. But Adwaita Acharya, we're told before this point, he's so powerful. If he's visiting someone in their house and he bows, they have an altar with a shelagram shila. If it's not a real one, when he gives his obeisances, it shatters. So Adwaita's coming and he's giving his dandavats to the baby, Nimai. And they're like, but everything's beautiful. In fact, they're thinking, is this good for, you know, this exalted, superior personality to be giving his dandavats to a baby? You know. But so Adwaita is, say, besides himself in anticipation of full-blown participation in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But because he's elder, and because he is also a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, Nimai Pandit treats him as Guru Varga. Right? So He's a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. That means he's a god brother of Ishwara Puri, who's my guru, the god brother of my guru is my guru. So Mahaprabhu was always showing special respect to him. And this is really bothering Adwaita Acharya, right? This sort of formality and etiquette. He wants this not only like flow of heart, but hot flow. He sees sometimes Mahaprabhu is chastising his devotees. They do something wrong. He's forbidding them to come in his association. As we're told, he did once with Mukunda. He said, I don't want to see Mukunda's face anymore. He can't come in my group. Devotees go and tell me, Mukunda, the Lord said you can't come for darshan anymore. And he's like heartbroken. He said, for how long? They ask him, how long? He said, 1,000,000 lifetimes. And they go back and say, we're sorry to tell you, but he said 1,000,000 lifetimes. And he goes, oh, then I'll get to see the Lord. He's ecstatic. And when Mahaprabhu said, so what did he say? And they go, he was ecstatic, anticipating seeing you again. He said, all right, then tell him to come now. His 1,000,000 lifetimes are up. And who is it? Kamalakanta Vishvasha. Adwaita has different children and relatives. And this one, Kamalakanta Vishvasa, he wrote a letter to Adwaita Acharya that somehow Mahaprabhu saw. And in the beginning, he says many wonderful things to him, indicating his position as being divine. And then at the end, he has a note, and he goes, and by the way, you owe me $300, and if you could pay that as soon as possible. And when Mahaprabhu saw that, he was infuriated. He's saying, on the one hand, he's recognizing like that you're Vishnu Tattva, you're divine. And then on the other hand, he's saying, you owe me $300? So that Kamalakanta Vishvasa, Mahaprabhu is chastising him like anything. And he's coming to Adwaita to beg forgiveness. And Adwaita is saying, no offense taken. He's saying, but actually I envy you. He's saying, why? He said, Mahaprabhu has not been so merciful to me as he is to you. I don't feel that kind of intimacy that he feels he can, abuse me. So you're more fortunate than me. So Adwaita revealed his strategy to get Mahaprabhu to stop treating him respectfully was, he was known for giving Gita classes and other scriptures, and we know so much so that Mahaprabhu's brother Vishwarup, Sachimata accused Adwaita, saying it's by going to these Gita classes that he got this feeling for renunciation and left home and took sannyas. So she blamed that on Adwaita. And later, it's part of their pastimes. Mahaprabhu said, you have to, that's an aparad, you have to take dust from the feet of Adwaita. But so Adwaita, to get the ire of Mahaprabhu, he started reading from this book called Yoga Vashishta. It's basically Mayavad. Right? And when it came to Mahaprabhu's attention that this is what he's now instructing everybody on, which is the antithesis of devotion. Right? Mayavadi Bhashya Shuni Lehoy Sarvanash. By hearing that, Mahaprabhu himself, by hearing Mayavadi philosophy, you'll be destroyed. This he's giving out. So Mahaprabhu comes and starts beating him. And Adwaita Acharya is in ecstasy. And then Mahaprabhu realizes he's a victim of the plot of Adwaita Acharya to get some of that hot love and affection that he was generously displaying with others. So Adwaita, he's always eager for the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're told when, I should say that while he's still Nimai Pandit, that one day Mahaprabhu says, or he's Nimai Pandit, and he says, I have the inspiration of Devi Bhav. I want to become the goddess. Let's have a play, get all the, the female attire, and I'll be Rukmini, and this person will be that person, and he assigns roles to everyone. He's going to be the Dwarka queen, Rukmini. Right? And so he tells, who is it? Sadashiva, Buddhimantakan, go arrange this, it'll be at the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya. So everyone's really excited about this play. And Nimai Pandit, he said, but one thing, the audience can only be comprised of people who have complete control of their senses. Only they can be in the audience. Right? It's like, who can be the audience for the 10th canto, Panchadhyaya chapters of the Bhagavatam? Vikriditam brajabaduridam cha Vishnu shradhanvito anushranaya atavarnayedyat bhakti param bhagavati pratilabdhikamam hridrogamashu api hinuti achirena dhira. Those who are dhira, jitendriya, whose senses are completely under control. So here he says, only those whose sense are jitendriya, senses completely controlled, can go to the performance. Okay, get everything and let's... And he says, Adwaita Acharya's head is hung down with his foot, he's scratching the ground. And he says, what's wrong? And he goes, I won't be able to go. Why? My senses are not under control. And Srivas Thakur says, me too, I won't be able to come. And if you think about it, remember, his day job is Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu, what humility there is. Others, who are newly recruited to Krishna consciousness, they'll be, in the front row. Right? Mahavishnu and Srivas Thakur, Narada, they're saying, I'm not qualified. My senses are not under control. Srila Guru Maharaj said, the genuine devotees, when we hear, anarta nivritti, adal shraddha tarusanga bhajana kriya taton arta nivritti sha taton nishta ruchi tata. Anarta nivritti, meaning, basically, sense controlled, free from unwanted things, a misconception. He said, a genuine devotee will never say that they have achieved that. Right? What to speak of higher things? So Adwaita says, I won't be able to attend. Srivas Thakur, I also won't be able to attend. And Mahaprabhu said, if you too don't come, then who can come? If not you two. And seeing their humility, he said, all right, I'm going to give you a special benediction. For the duration of this performance, you will be Mahayogis. Your senses will be completely controlled. And they're like dancing and happy. And Adwaita Acharya, now he's very excited. And when he sees all the different garments and the roles being assigned, the cast according to Mahaprabhu, he's saying, which part shall I play? He said, you can play any part you want. You can play any role you want. Until the Adwaita Acharya enters a state of divine madness and just thinking about that and starts dancing mystically, just contemplating that. So that Adwaita, we can say sometimes the Lord playing tricks on his devotees, sometimes the devotees playing some tricks on the Lord. That after Mahaprabhu, when he first takes sannyas, when Adwaita Acharya discovers at the house of Sachimata that Nimai Pandit has gone to take sannyas, where all the devotees are devastated and their hearts are suffering intense anguish of separation, Adwaita Acharya suggests that he will commit suicide. And he says, I know the devotees won't allow it. They'll prevent me in the daytime, so I'll wait till the evening, and then I will. That's how he feels. But in time, some word comes from Nityananda Prabhu that there's hope for Mahaprabhu to shortly return. And we know when Mahaprabhu is wandering in his divine madness, in this childlike state, that the plot of Nityananda and Adwaita is to tell some local cowherd boys to, when he asks for Vrindavan, to mislead him, to tell him that the Ganga is the Jamuna. And he is all excited, and he goes and bathes in the Ganga as Jamuna, chanting this verse, Chidananda Bano. He's saying, Prema Dhatri Jala Prem. It's Krishna Prem in liquid form. He's singing the glories of the Jamuna, and then sees on the bank is Adwaita. And he's a little perplexed and says to Adwaita, how did you know I was in Vrindavan? And Adwaita, are you joking? Wherever you are is Vrindavan. Of course that's where you are. Wherever you are is Vrindavan. Then he realized, oh, Nityananda has tricked me. And Adwaita, we're told, is waiting there with a boat and clothes, because Mahaprabhu left with only the sannyas vesh garments he was wearing. And then Adwaita says to Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, I'm a poor householder. If you just come to my house, I can have a little rice, some vegetables, or you've been fasting for 3 days now, and please, it's the duty of the Grihastas, Vaishnava Seva, and invite the sannyasi. So Mahaprabhu is taken there with Nityananda Prabhu, and there's Adwaita Acharya. Sita Thakurani is cooking. The Adwaita has so many children. We know the exalted position of Achyutananda, who is a 5-year-old boy. When he meets Mahaprabhu at this time, we're told he's naked, right? And he had previously overheard Adwaita having a conversation with someone who asked him, who's the sannyas guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And Adwaita says, oh, Keshava Bharati. And Achyutananda came in and saying, Father, what nonsense are you speaking? Mahaprabhu, he's Jagat Guru, he's the Guru's Guru, he's the Guru of everyone. You mean someone is his Guru. If you spread this kind of false information, everything will be ruined. And we're told Adwaita's Acharya, his heart is melting to hear this type of intense devotion for Mahaprabhu coming from his son. So when Mahaprabhu comes and they meet, Achyutananda is expressing his appreciation for Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu says, Adwaita is also my father, as he's your father. Remember, Adwaita brought him down to this world. He's also my father. So that means you and I are brothers. You're my little brother. And later, Achyutananda will be in the different groups at the Rath Yatra dancing. Every group has a lead singer, a lead dancer. Achyutananda is one of the lead dancers in the groups. And when they're there at Adwaita's, he brings Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu to take lunch. He's so happy to serve them. Mahaprabhu, at different times, he will speak within the confines of being a sannyasi about what behavior is appropriate, what is inappropriate. Right? And repeatedly, the devotees have to remind him of his other position. So when he sees all these wonderful things being offered by Adwaita, he thinks, well, it's all for Krishna, that he just take a plate, put a little bit on there for me, and I'll take that. And Adwaita says, no. You don't understand. You two just sit down and I'll take care of the serving. And he starts giving so much. And Mahaprabhu was saying, like, how can I possibly eat all of these things? And Adwaita tried to say, oh, you're joking. Saying, in Jagannath Puri, you have 54 offerings a day with hundreds and thousands of pots. This is nothing for you. And he's taking, and we're told Nityananda is also there. And his position is the opposite of what Nimai Pandit is saying. Nityananda is saying, I've been fasting for these few days. I was hoping to break my fast today. It doesn't look like that'll be possible with what you're serving. And Adwaita Acharya, and just as a footnote, then suddenly we see so Mahavishnu creating the innumerable universe, but if that Mahavishnu gets a chance to play this part and these pastimes and have this kind of playful, loving exchange with Nityananda, how sweet that is, why these pastimes are so superior. Rasovarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. And so Nityananda, he's eating, and he's saying, this is not enough. And Adwaita is saying, look, I'm just a poor householder. I don't have a lot of resources. He's saying, and I can see someone like you could eat a sack of rice. Where am I going to get that? And Nityananda increasingly becoming disgusted. And he's saying, you're supposed to, treat sannyasis appropriately. And Adwaita is saying, what, you took sannyas, for free food? Like you'll just show up at somebody's house and then they have to feed you and give you stuff? That's your idea of being a sannyasi? And also to give trouble to Brahmins. So you'll show up, they have to feed you, and then you give them some trouble at the same time. And Nityananda Prabhu is saying, this, what you've given, it's just not satisfying. And Adwaita is saying, look, just take this and try not to make a mess. Right? And Nityananda, he's insulted, and he takes some rice and throws it. And some of that comes upon Adwaita, and he starts dancing. And he's feeling himself so blessed to be touched, and he says, by foodstuff from Nityananda, the personality of Godhead. And what does Nityananda say? You dare call Mahaprasadam food? He's saying, that is offensive. That is very offensive. He's dancing and ecstasy. And he says, to overcome your offense, you shall have to invite 100 sannyasis and feed them sumptuously. And Adwaita Acharya says, I will never invite another sannyasi to my house as long as I live. Then it's time for a rest. And Nityananda Prabhu, Mahaprabhu rest, Adwaita is so happy, he takes some prasadam. Then we're told late in the day, they start the kirtan. And Adwaita is singing. And interestingly, he starts singing this song of Vidyapati, which is described as Mathura Biraha, meaning this is a song that is attributed to Srimati Radharani herself upon Krishna. We know they go away, Krishna goes away, we're talking the 100-year separation, Kurukshetra, when Krishna comes back. So think about that, the excitement, the intensity of the ecstasy of the moment, that Krishna has returned. So in this line he's saying, you don't know how happy I am. Today Madhava has come to my house. And that's the song that Adwaita Acharya starts singing ecstatically. And remember, having taken sannyas, now the Bhakta Bhav transitioning into Radha Bhav is starting to fully manifest and express itself. Hearing Adwaita Acharya sing like that, it's having a deep effect upon Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and waves of ecstatic symptoms are playing upon his divine form, causing him to fall to the ground, and all the devotees are like, Adwaita stops chanting. But Mukunda, seeing that it's a particular mood, he starts singing another song. And it's keyed to the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, reflecting the mood and the heart and the sentiments of Srimati Radharani. And he gets up again and starts dancing madly, showing so many ecstatic symptoms. His hair standing on end like kadamba flowers, his divine radiant form trembling, perspiration, becoming stunned, so many things. All these different ecstatic symptoms manifest in Mahaprabhu. And to the point where he can no longer keep his balance. He's balanced by Nityananda Prabhu. And after so much singing and dancing, finally they bring it to a close. And we're told for something like 10 days this went on at the house of Adwaita Acharya. Every day, and they brought Sachi Mata and all the devotees from Navadvip, until finally Mahaprabhu took leave to go to Jagannath Puri. And the heartbreak experienced by Adwaita Acharya, I mentioned before, like when we see the cuteness of these children, I'm using that as an example, right? And we see how cute they are and the kind of effect it has upon you. Then imagine a child 10 million times cuter. It's like your heart would burst. You know, you wouldn't be able to control yourself, right? So what to speak of that's the cuteness, that's the vatsalya, then imagine the madhura level of sweetness, right? Friendship, vatsalya, etc. So the magnitude of love and affection that Adwaita Acharya has for Mahaprabhu, and now he has to say goodbye. It's these scenes where he has to leave his devotees. They're heartbreaking. Sometimes Kaviraj Goswami would say, it's so pathetic and heartbreaking it can't be described. Yet somehow it takes place. Right? Because if you could be in the presence of such a personality that, imagine, 10 million times cuter, 10 million times more beautiful, 10 million times more attractive, and then to have to be, that's Krishna, akarshan, that sort of magnetic attraction, to be pulled, how painful that is, and the pull upon the heart of separation, bahi, brishajalahoy, Bitore Anandamoy Krishna Prema Adbhuta Charit. We're told that is the unique, astonishing characteristic of Krishna Prema. Yet somehow, by the play of Yoga Maya, it takes place. But still, those devotees, and how they can live a year, every year in Navadvip, right, just think, in restless anticipation of going to Puri and being at the Rath Yatra with Mahaprabhu. And one such year, they're there, and at the Gundicha Marjan, Adwaita is there, his son Gopal, Achyutananda, and Mahaprabhu tells Gopal, while they're singing and dancing, ecstatically tells Gopal, sing, and Krishna Prem, sing and dance. And Gopal starts dancing madly, and so intense what he's experiencing that he faints unconscious, and they're unable to revive him. It appears as though he's died. So Adwaita, just imagine, these are the kirtans they have. In the middle of the kirtan, someone is dying. Once we met this famous composer, Jayadev, in Bombay, and my friend, and he was showing us some things about singing and some of these famous singers, how privately they like to sing bhajans and things like that. And then to give us some idea of the pure type of music, he said, there are performances, and this is mundane, why I want to give it as an example in parallel. He said, there are performances where the singer is singing some like love song, and we know the painful love songs about separation. During these performances, people have died. Hearing that, their heart became so affected, so afflicted, during the performance, they died. And that's in the mundane sphere. So how is it not understandable, even more so? Here, Krishna Prem Sankirtan. It's so intense, what is being, so for all practical purposes, he drops dead in the middle of the kirtan, Adwaita's son Gopal. And it's very disturbing to Adwaita and the others, and Mahaprabhu comes and just says, Gopal, get up! And hearing the voice of Mahaprabhu, he jumps up and resumes ecstatic kirtan. So, after so much time, every year they come. One year, we know Jagadananda Pandit, he's sent to deliver some goods and gifts to Sachi Mata and bring her some news about Mahaprabhu. And coming, brings some news back, and Adwaita gives him some mystic poem and says, please give this to Mahaprabhu. Jagadananda reads and thinks, that's kind of weird, funny, okay, I don't understand it, but I'll do that. And he returns to Puri and said, oh, Adwaita sent us enigmatic poem for you. And Mahaprabhu reads this, and he says, oh, it is his order. And so the Swarup Damodar, what does this mean? Swarup Damodar said, oh, I don't understand. He does understand. He said, I'm not sure what this is saying. And what he's saying in a mystical way, he's saying, tell the madman that now everybody's gone mad. Remember the three Pagals who descended, and what mad with what? Divine love, with Krishna Prem, which is madness in this world. Tell the madman that everyone's gone mad. And he says, and the rice in the marketplace, there's no, the market's reached saturation. And tell him that someone that he's turned into a madman is sharing this with him, this news with him. as he told to Srivas Thakur when Sachimata thought he was mad for laughing wildly for 9 hours. And when Srivas Thakur told Sachimata, if he's crazy, what he's got, I want a drop of that divine substance. And he stopped his laughing and said, Srivas, if you didn't appreciate what this is, then I would have left the world. But that you appreciate and understand what it is, that gives me some hope. Now let's distribute this divine substance. So what it meant was Adwaita, who called, and Mahaprabhu explains this Rup Damodar. He said, Adwaita, he's like one of those persons who they invoke the presence of the deity for a function, and at the end of the function, they don't need the deity anymore. Like we've seen Teen Number Tank, Dum Dum Park, and other places. Durga Devi, they make a big a diorama of a Durga Devi, and they have a festival for so many days, and then at the end, she goes in the pond. And because she's made out of earth, right, she dissolves into the pond, and then next year they do it again. So he's saying, he, Tulasi Dalamatrena, Jalasal Chulakin, he brought me down with the Tulsi water, the Ganga water and the Tulsi Manjaris. And now to distribute this divine name of Krishna to everyone and everywhere. And it's been done, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, Vanchitosmi, Vanchitosmi, Vanchitosmi Nusangshaya, Vishwa Purna, Vishwa Gora Rase Magnam, Sparshopi, He's flooded the world with Krishna Prem. And what he's saying is, now that internal reason that you came for, right? Radha Bhavaduti Subolita, to plunge the depths of Radha Bhav, the internal reason for the descent of Mahaprabhu, to experience the Krishna Prem of his beloved Srimati Radharani. He's saying, now you've done your public service to everyone, now this this private passion, you can pursue that. And then at the behind closed doors, primarily the last 12 years of his manifest pastimes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the association of Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy, reading, the Gita Govinda, the Krishna Karnamritam, Jagannath Balavanatak, the songs of Vidyapati and Chandidas. Hare Krishna, Radha Bhavaduti Subolita Nomi Krishna Swarupam. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraya Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Haraya Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Adwaita Chandra. Garadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Echai Gochai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. Echai Gosai Jar Mui Taro Das Kansa Bada Pada Rinu Mora Panchagras Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas Janome More Abhilas Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilovas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Kori Nam Sankirtan Kohe Naratamadan Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribhajaka Acharya Sithira Siddhishri Srimad So Bhakti Sudhir Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai Sri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Rupa Anuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Adwaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Govinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Shantipur Ki Jai Sri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Brinda Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Vimalavadut Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai Seva Brinda Ki Jai Somaveda Bhakti Brinda Ki Jai Sri Adwaita Acharya Avirbhav Mahamahotavati Ki Jai Sri Mahavishnu Avatar Sri Adwaita Acharya Prabhu Ki Jai Nitai Go Premanande Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
And Maharaj Dandavats
Yes.
from Tapanandini Didi, Samantha Fairclough, East London, Ratin Prabhu, Moscow, Madhavi Lata Didi, Holland, Chris Jonathan Bulawan Gore, Dandavat Pranam to Maharaj and all devotees, Aditi Nandana Prabhu, UK. Yeah. Kshama Budhi Prabhu, Krishna Duty Didi, Ratnakar Prabhu, Ashapurna Didi, Kalyani Didi, USA, Praneshwari Didi, Florida, Gurjit Arora, Kolkata, Arjun Prabhu, Ukraine, Malika Drew, yeah.
They're in Thailand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anjali Didi, Bhaktalata Didi, Moscow, and Dhanjay Prabhu and Chintanya Mai Didi, Italy.
In Italy.
Yes.
Dhanyavad. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. And there is Indumukhi in China. Dhanyavad. Somyasham Prabhu and Orsk. Sandeep, Krishna Prabhu, Maheshwari Didi, and their beloved daughter, Janvi Devi, Dhanyavad. Madhavi Lata, Dhanyavad Didi, she's in Holland. Rupa Vilas Prabhu in Philippines, Dhanyavad. Sulalita in Russia and Orsk. Seva Rupa Didi, Dhanyavad. Tarulata in Belarus, Dhanyavad. Pandita, Dhanyavad. Subhada in Tomsk, right, in Siberia, something like 1,000,000 degrees below zero. Aviram Prabhu, Dhanyavad. Gaurachandra Prabhu, Dhanyavad. I said Sri Hari Prabhu, Dhanyavad. Anantashesh Prabhu in Spain, Dhanyavad. Sulakshana, who's here, Dhanyavad. Nityananda Prabhu is here, Dhanyavad. Madhavi Lata in Petersburg, Dhanyavad. Anjali, you said, yes, and Priyanana's here. Okay, did I reach everyone? I think so. Oh, Lalita Priya? Who? Yes, I said Somya Sham. Chandrakanti, where? Oh, okay, Dhanyavad. Balavanta Prabhu. Dhanyavad. Oh, there's Chandrakanti and Sudevi. Hey, Sudevi. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Can she see? All right. Vancha kalpatribhyascha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Maha mantra Prabhu, Dhanyavad. Nice.